Right, welcome. And here we are for a brand new episode of Talking Loyal. And what a treat we have for you today. We are joined by former Premier League and current #United player Greg Halford.
Welcome, Greg. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Good, mate. Very good. Thanks for coming on.
Yes, so
No
thank you
problem.
for coming on.
No problem.
So currently playing for #United. You were playing yesterday. How did you get on yesterday?
Well, it wasn't a great day yesterday. We ended up losing 3-1, which was our first defeat in 21 games. We went 21 games,
Bloody hell.
winning every single one as well. So it was a tough one yesterday.
Mm.
But the run has to come to an end at some point, and we start a new run next week.
Yeah, definitely. Who did you play yesterday?
Stowmarket.
Okay. They're decent in that division, aren't they, as well? So, but like you said, that the run has to come to an end, but go again next week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're not too bad. They've beaten sort of our closest rivals, Sudbury, a couple of times already this season, and they play again next week. So hopefully they can do us a favour, and we can keep that gap at the top of the league.
Yeah, we'll get onto the # stuff, but do you wanna?
Yes, so at the start of all our shows, we always do a trivia question, and this episode is no different. Greg, you played for 13 Football League clubs throughout your career, but which of these did you play against the most? Have a little think about it, and we'll answer it at the end of the question, at the end of the show.
Okay.
So which of your former clubs did you play against the most?
Yeah, we'll come back to it. So, it could be a tough one, but don't worry about it too much. But with all our guests, we like to start off with a few quick-fire questions, sort of maybe not necessarily football related. But I'll start off with: did you have anyone growing up, a footballing idol that you looked up to, or maybe you tried to base your game off when you were growing up?
I always watched sort of Bex a lot of the time. I never really wanted to sort of base my game on anyone. It was more of a collective thing than anything else. But obviously, sort of Beck's grown up, and that goal against Wimbledon sort of put him on the map, and just the ability to not have to beat people, but still get the ball in the box just by whipping it around people. And I was never really blessed with amazing pace, so that was sort of something that I looked at and tried to emulate a little bit, but not.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like you said, not necessarily emulate, but find your own way to figure out. Like you said, you're not the quickest, but good one.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Greg, you played a number of positions: up front, defence, right back, all over the place. But we would like to know the toughest player you faced, both as a striker and as a defender.
Oof. So as a defender, sort of the toughest opponents was maybe like Gareth Bale. Came up against sort of David Trezeguet, Del Piero, and Nedved for Juventus.
Pretty difficult then.
As a striker, wow. I never really thought about it, to be honest. I mean, I haven't really played too many games, but when I was playing for England under 21s and that came against France, I couldn't the player that I was up against, but that was probably my toughest game as a striker, France. I'm just trying to think. Most of the games were in the Championship as a striker, like David Dunn, like ex-Man United, ex-Man City, Chris Samba, I think.
Yeah. Just big physical players, I suppose.
Yeah, that's the thing is, know, I could always sort of rely on my height and my strength. But once I came up against players who were as tall as me and as strong as me, it was, right, how do I outthink these players?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the toughest challenge. Is, you know, you have to find a way. So it goes back to sort of me playing in defence. What did I not like when a striker I was up against was doing stuff to me? So, and that was the best thing for me, is because I played so many different positions, I could take it, take that side of my game and incorporate it. Like, what would I not like in that position?
Yeah.
And that's sort of stood with me throughout my career. And that's why I think I was able to play so many different positions, and why so many managers like me in different positions.
That's good. So like you said, you play various positions. Would you prefer scoring a goal yourself, or would you prefer a goal line clearance?
Scoring a goal.
Yeah, pretty easy.
Yeah, easy. Yeah. I mean, but it depends in the scenario of the game. If we're sort of 1-up, last game of the season, having to win to get promoted, and I do a goal line clearance, then obviously that's going to be a lot better than goal. But yeah, in general, scoring a goal is much better.
Yeah, perfect. Your favourite holiday destination with the lads? Where are you going on your lads trip?
Dubai.
Quick, easy.
Yeah,
fair enough.
I'm not really one of the party type of guys, but Dubai has a bit of everything. You can go out, and there's so much stuff to do. And you know, the year I got promoted with Cardiff, we all went to Dubai, and it was class.
Yeah, love it. Bit more football related again, but if you had to pick a dream five-a-side team of players that you've played with, who would you pick? The top 5, if you can.
So goalkeeper would be Wayne Hennessy. Wow. Defenders. What would I go?
You can put yourself in there if you fancy yourself, but
nah. Where am I going? 5-a-side to defenders. Kyle Walker. Goes without saying. James Milner. And Carnu and Andy Cole.
Yeah, pretty good.
That's a great team, that. You mentioned your dream destination was Dubai, but which former 5 teammates are you bringing on this trip?
This could be different to their abilities on the pitch, but
yeah, Sean Morrison. Definitely Sean Morrison from Cardiff, now at Rotherham. One of the best guys I know. David Nugent, just because he's so funny. Carl Walker, because I've just known him for so long, and he's a good character as well. Lee Peltier.
Yeah.
And one more. Jazz Richards, actually. I like Jazz Richards. Yeah.
Good one. No, I like it. I like the thought. I like you put some thought into that. One's good. I like
it.
Perfect. Right. Thank you very much. That's the end of the quickfire questions, and we'll move on to your career. So you started at Colchester United when you were about 18, 19 years old. I used to go to Lower Road occasionally when I was a bit young, about 8 years old. I remember seeing you, really tall man with a really long throw in on the sidelines. Tell us about how it all started at Colchester. You got scouted there, and when you signed, and how did that all come about?
So, how old was I? I think I went there when I was 13, and one of my friends I used to go to school with, his granddad had connections at Colchester, and he got me a trial. It was a trial game, and I remember it was at Colchester University, and I thought I did all right in the game, but they said at the time after the game that they wanted me to come for a 6-week trial, and that they saw something, like the biggest part of my game that they liked was my first touch, and then from that 6 weeks I got asked to come and obviously play for them, and then it just sort of progressed, and getting to sort of 15, 16, I was the last one out of my age group to get offered a scholarship. And then as soon as I left school, secondary school, went into full-time football at 16. And then I think it was within a year, no, a year and a half, I got offered a pro contract. And in that time, before that happened, I made my debut. Got beat 5-0 on my debut against Luton. But I managed to get man of the match, obviously a token gesture for me. But from that throw in, everyone sort of it stuck in their heads, and yeah, from there I went strength to strength and ended up playing 4 years, first team at Colchester before obviously moving on. So it was a good learning curve as well, because I think sort of you see all these players. Oh, we lost someone.
Oh, lost tape. It's all good. Carry on. It's all good. He'll come back.
So you see these Premier League players, youngsters dropping down to the lower leagues to like learn their trade and become a man, and being able to play sort of near 170 odd times.
Did you think though, sorry to jump in, but when you were 16, 17 and you were sort of sniffing around the first team, was that unusual at that time? Were you one of the only ones, or was there a few players that were being brought up? What was it like at Colchester?
No, there was a couple of players at the time. I mean, I came through the same age group as Dean Gherkin. It's slightly different for a goalkeeper. But we had another lad called Ross Crouch at the time, and he was sniffing around the first team. But it was really, out of my age group, it was only really me and Dean Gherkin who went on to have sort of careers in the Football League. But it was at that time, it was quite a big thing for Colchester to bring through youngsters and put them into the first team as soon as possible. And yeah, I was just fortunate enough to be able to play sort of 170 games before I was 21. So yeah,
that's good. And the thing was, now as well, people that watch and listen to football, Colchester back then as well, when you started out and then when you played for 4 or 5 years, they were a good League One side that got promoted. You were part of their promotion to the Championship. So they're a very different Football League side back then. But yeah, like I said, you picked up Young Player of the Year 04-05. You were named in the League One Team of the Year 05-06 as well. And obviously part of that Colchester side that were runners up. So yeah, you're obviously a big part of that side, and at a young age, which is obviously good. Very good.
Yeah, it was an eye opener. It was good to be sort of being at the top of the league, and having that sort of pressure, and obviously again that learning curve of being able to deal with pressure. And then that sort of made my mind up in terms of my next progression is I wanted to go and learn my trade in the championship. And I ended up having sort of 6 months to see whether or not I was good enough for that level.
Was that, sorry, that was all part of your, not part of your plan, but yeah, like you said, you got promoted and you were like, right, I'm ready to sort of step up now and move on to the championship. And if it doesn't work out with Colchester, then you sort of knew you were ready for it.
Yeah, definitely. It's, I mean, before that happened, obviously I had that little taster with England and the 21s, and I was quite an introvert when I was younger, and going to camp before the tournament and seeing all these Premiership players, Tom Hulse, James Milner, all these players, and thinking that I wasn't good enough or ready to be there. And Peter Taylor at the time just gave me the confidence, and every day I grew, and that gave me the confidence to be able to sort of step up into the championship and sort of have that good solid 6 months there. And then once people knew that I could deal with the championship, that's when all the teams started coming in.
Yeah, like you said, you had a go on, Tate.
So say in that summer when you got promoted from Colchester, was there interest from championship clubs, other championship clubs around?
Yeah, there was clubs in the Premier League that were looking as well. I think there was probably only 3 or 4 teams in the Premier League that hadn't spoken to Colchester about me. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of interest around me, and I think once I had that 6 months championship, sort of,
that was a little test for them to see maybe what you're about, I suppose.
Yeah, but then they started to back off, knowing that the Premier League clubs were coming in. I remember going to Sunderland, playing against Sunderland just before Christmas, and they were really struggling at the bottom of the championship, and Roy Keane had just come in. And we went up there and won, and at that time they gave sort of man and match to both home and away players, and they gave a presentation to sort of the people who had paid for the dinner and everything like that. And that's when Niall Quinn and Roy Keane sort of made a cheeky approach in the back room where we were waiting to be presented, and they sort of gave up and knew that I was going to go to the Premier League. But then obviously they kept their tabs on me for sort of the year.
Yeah, later on. So yeah, after, like you said, 6 months in Championship with Colchester, you got your move to the Premier League with Reading in 2007 January. What was that like? Like you said about the interest of other clubs, but were Reading one of the front runners, and you were like, yeah, absolutely, that sounds great. I'm all for it. How did that come about?
Well, there was a lot of offers that came in. Spoke to a lot of people, and then, but I was sort of swayed towards Reading because it was run like Colchester. It was a family club, a small but big club. And then obviously Phil Parkinson, who was my manager at Colchester, had a lot of years at Reading. And then I was playing with Kevin Watson at the time, who also spent a lot of time at Reading, and spoke to them. And I just felt at that time it was a better fit. I felt like I was able to get into the side quicker instead of going to a big 6.
Yeah, club. I know what you mean. Yeah.
So yeah, that was my way of thinking. And yeah, so I spoke to Steve Coppell and Wally Downs and Kevin Dillon and the director of football and John Medeski and everyone like that, and I just got a good vibe from the club, and yeah, decided to go there.
Yeah, fair enough. Tate, do you want to go into
Yeah, so you made your full debut for Reading in away at Tottenham Hotspur in April. How did you prepare for that? Did you do anything differently because you knew you were starting? When did you find out you were starting? Was it the night before? Were you tossing and turning in bed or?
No, it was he always named the team when we got to the ground. So there was nothing.
Good luck.
Yeah, there was nothing different about preparations or anything like that. It was, and then obviously it was nice because you didn't have that pressure thinking about it the day before or the night before, or you weren't lying in bed in the hotel waiting or thinking about what could happen and stuff like that. So it was good, and I felt like I had a pretty good game apart from the dubious penalty call.
Yeah,
we watched that on Friday.
Yeah, we did a bit of research and saw that you were a fullback, and then to be honest, I might have been at the game. I've been a season ticket my whole life, but yeah, you got a dodgy handball call against you. So
yeah. So it was a tough game, and obviously I think I was up against Steve Malbronk first half. Who was tricky, smart, and obviously the rest of the team. I actually can't remember too much of the Tottenham team, but and then they decided to finish me off with Aaron Lennon for the second half.
Good. Weared you down and bring on Aaron Lennon absolutely rapid. So yeah, good luck.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I remember Martin Yole after the game calling me Popeye, and because of the throw in, and I remember speaking to the management team as well afterwards, and they were sort of saying they didn't feel like I was fit enough, and we got the running results back sort of the Monday morning after the game, and I'd run 1.5 kilometers more than anyone else. So
yeah,
it's kind of
probably chasing Lennon probably.
Yeah, exactly. But it's that perception that I give is like I'm tall, I'm laid back, but don't ever underestimate sort of my work ethic, because I will run further than anyone else, and that proved that after that game.
Yeah.
So after your debut, could you tell pretty much straight away the difference in level between League One, then Championship, then Premier League?
Oh yeah, without doubt.
Instantly straight away, the touches are better, the passes are more crisp, straight into your feet?
Yeah, exactly, and that's it's more of the process as well as like the tactical awareness and knowing where every single player is on the pitch at all times, and that took a while for me to develop, and obviously try and recognize that I was good enough to play in this league. But then yeah, just it's hard for me to go to new clubs. I found it tough to go to new clubs and settle in straight away. So and clubs from day one, they want you settling in, and
they want basically instant results, don't they? Yeah,
and if you don't, then you're out, and that was a tough thing.
Yeah, well, on that debut you had made at Spurs, did you manage to get any shirt swaps, or did you get anything from certain players?
Yeah, I got Tom Huddleston's shirt after the game, only because I played with him previously at England, so I knew him well. So I didn't really make too much effort of going after people's shirts, only the people that I knew.
Yeah.
But I've got a story about a shirt that a bit later on when we get to the next.
Okay. Just quickly though, before we move on, about obviously you spoke about England. You represent England under 20s, under 21s, I think. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And just for those that are listening, that within, obviously you played likes of Huddleston, Milner, all these great players, but to give you reference, I looked in the 2005 tournament, I think it was under 20s, under 21, the World Cup. The player of the tournament was Lionel Messi. So that shows you what you're up against, and the age range and all the rest of it, that when you're coming through. So yeah. Even represent your country is pretty incredible. So.
Yeah, it it was special. And I still hold it dearly to me. I've still got every single shirt that I wore hanging up, and yeah, special.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, after 6 months, you moved from Reading to Sunderland. We signed in the summer. You might have a little story or two, but yeah, like you said earlier, Roy Keane was in charge. Did you sort of have in the back of your mind you might be somewhere along the line, get a little call from them, or how did that happen?
No, not at all. Actually, it's you know, I played what did I 3 or 4 games for Reading. Knowing that was sort of the 6 months was the sort of bed in time. Know everyone, get to know the league, get to know the players, new place to live, and everything like that. And it wasn't. I was on holiday in the Maldives actually, and I had a call from my agent saying that like they're seriously considering an offer from Sunderland. Like, how do you feel about it? So I don't want to leave. I've only just
you're trying to just start at Reading, basically, aren't you? Yeah.
Exactly, and like I bought a house, had the keys for 4 days, and then they sold me. So, I went into the training ground after I got back from a holiday to see Steve Coppell, and I said, look, I don't want to go. He said, look, whatever you decide, I'm more than happy with. And I said, look, I've got unfinished business here. I signed a 4-year deal. I'm your record signing. Like, I want to be here. And he was like, fine. And then it wasn't until Nicky Hammond, who was the director of football at Reading, had a meeting with him, and he was like, well, you're going to be third choice right back. I'm like, doesn't bother me. So even from that point, like, he was trying to convince me to go, and I was like, well, if you don't want me here, then I'll go.
And that's sort of the side of football that you never really, normally people avoid, don't you? You don't hear it, you don't see
exactly, and
the ins and outs.
I really, from that moment, it's not that I lost respect for that sort of position in the club, like director of football, because manager, he wants me to stay. So what's it down to anyone else? He's the one who picks the team. But for someone with such a big influence in the club, I just felt like, right, let me get on a plane and go up to Sunderland and see what Roy Keane has to say. And kind of hard to say no to a guy like that.
Yeah, take one. You might.
Yeah, no, I was about to say about moving. We had a question. Obviously, you're from Essex, local lad. Reading is not too far out of Essex. How was that to move up, like I said, get a plane all the way up to Sunderland to restart your life again? You just got the keys after 4 days, and then you've got to move up there along with starting a new club. It must be quite a stressful experience.
You know what? Sunderland as a club, obviously, it's a massive club, and you know, it was the first year that summer they'd just got in a player liaison who was amazing, and she made it so effortless. She sorted out house viewings and planes and everything like that. That is such a ball ache to do. She made it as easy as you'd like, and she was amazing. And it was quite easy. To be honest with you, when I had a look at a load of houses and ended up buying again, and that part was pretty easy. Obviously, the move in and everything like that is stressful time for anyone. But yeah, they made it very easy, and was very grateful for that.
When you knew that, like you said, Sunderland, Roy Keane were knocking, were you ready to go? Like, Roy Keane, like I said, he's almost a surreal name. It's, you know what I mean, he's a Premier League legend, a football legend as such. So when someone wants you like that, then is it an easy answer?
In the end, it was. It wasn't at the beginning, but not only was it Roy Keane, it was Niall Quinn as well, who was the owner of the club. And to have someone, so it was kind of like a good cop, bad cop. Obviously, Keno has this whole exterior of this hard man, but Niall was the soft guy, even though he never played like that. But he was such a nice guy, and to have them two sort of convincing me to go up there and sort of make a lot of promises and everything like that, and it ended up being a fairly easy answer. And obviously going to the training ground and the ground, state-of-the-art training ground, state-of-the-art stadium, it was easy.
How
So
was
go on.
How was Roy Keane to play under? Did you ever get on the wrong side of him? Ever get a telling off?
Yeah,
a bad one.
I just remember sort of, again, it was managers and clubs wanting an instant impact, and we went on pre-season tour. We went to Portugal first, and he said he was really happy with me and how I bedded in and settled in and got on with all the lads. And he wanted to offer me the number 2 shirt, which obviously sort of meant that I was going to be the first choice right back. And then we went to Ireland and played a couple of games over there, and I can't remember who we played against, but got in at half time and gave an absolute rocket.
Were you expecting it?
No, not at all. And usually sort of I'm my own worst critic when it comes to my performances. But yeah, definitely wasn't expecting anything like that. And yeah, he was just
let you have it.
Intense.
Yeah. So during your time at Sunderland, you had a couple loan spells, Cheltenham and Sheffield United. During your loan spell at Sheffield United, you played 49 games, scoring 8 goals, obviously including a massive moment at the playoff semi-final. Just to, obviously we can delve into it, but why do you think that was such a successful period for you? And was it to do with the club itself, the manager, the players?
I think it was because the manager at the time, Kevin Blackwell, just gave me the freedom to do what I not wanted, but that little bit of just go out and express yourself and do what you do best and get my confidence back. And obviously I played a lot of games, but not many people remember that the first sort of 4 or 5 months I wasn't really playing that much. I was coming on or sort of starting games, but not too much sort of every game here 90 minutes. And it wasn't really until sort of that January period we lost James Beattie, and then I had a training session where we sort of it was snowing and we had an indoor session, and he just stuck me up front, and I ended up sort of scoring 8 or 9 in this little 5-a-side, and he was like, okay,
that's where you are now.
yeah. And then obviously I played right along the front line, wide left, wide right, through the middle, and it was just that sort of confidence of going and express yourself, and that was it was a very good time for me.
Had you, just a quick one, I'd like to think about it, but when you were growing up, had you played 4 positions, or were you predominantly a sort of midfielder, defender, and then, like you said, at Sheffield United, it suddenly changed?
Yeah, every time it was coming through as a kid, I always played centre midfield. And then I have no idea why Phil Parkinson decided to play me as a right back. Never played there before. And that just stuck.
Even that, I bet that was an adjustment when you, like you said, first 6 months at club, you're trying to get into the side, and then suddenly you're changing positions here and there. It can't be easy, can it?
No, it wasn't easy, but I wanted to learn. I wanted to be able to play every position, and that was probably it. That ended up probably being my downfall, is that sort of, you know, the old saying, jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
But I couldn't do it. I couldn't just sit in one position. I got bored. Like, it got too easy. I needed to go and change. And that's when I was younger, sort of consistency in my game was always the bit that was my issue. And then obviously sort of going into a new position gave me a new lease of life, and that was it. And, you know, it was frustrating, but fun at the same time.
Yeah, and like you said, the playoff semi-final goal, was that probably one of your fondest memories, would you say? That moment, that game, I suppose.
Yes, it's up there just purely because of the noise.
Yeah, I bet.
It, even sort of watching it back, and I get it sent all the time to me on social media, and just hearing the noise again just sort of gives me goosebumps. Obviously, it was a goal and everything like that, but sort of in the Cup end of at Bramall Lane, and just the noise, the wall of noise, it was crazy, and yeah, that would always live with me.
Oh, yeah. You had a good little team there at Sheffield United, a great mixture of youth and experience. Just to name some of those: James Beattie, Cole Norton, Paddy Kenny, Lee Henry, and Carl Walker. Mm-hmm. At the time, could you tell that Carl Walker was going to go on to be a superstar and one of the best right backs to ever play in the Premier League?
Yes.
Straight away.
Yeah, straight away. People, so Carl Norton at the time got into the team before Walks, and everyone was hyping Carl Norton. And I remember at that time, my agent, I introduced, he said, who do you think's better? And I was like, Kyle Walker will have a better career. So I introduced them two together, and don't get me wrong, like, Kyle Norton is an unbelievable player. Like, technically at that age, he was so far ahead of Kyle Walker. But the raw athleticism that Kyle Walker had, and his willingness to learn, just, you could see it straight away.
Yeah, no, you can see that now with when he's gone to Man City, and his game's even gone up leaps and bounds since he was at Spurs, and arguably I would say he's best ever right back to the Premier League. Got a trophy cabinet to back it up and everything.
Yeah, that sort of, even when he went to Spurs and he had his loans to Villa and QPR and getting into the Spurs, I still don't think, sort of positional sense, he was great. It was only because it didn't need to be great because of how quick he was. He could get out of trouble.
Yeah.
But going to Man City and learning off Pep, it's just taking his ability to read the game and know his position and everyone else's position just to the next level. And he knows how lucky he's been to be able to have Pep as a manager and learn that position inside and out.
Yeah, definitely. Just on obviously you got to the playoff final, but you obviously sadly got beat in the playoff final. Was your plan, or did you think if you'd have got promoted with Sheffield United, you'd have stayed there, or was that even a thought in your head at the time?
The plan was to stay there anyway.
Yeah.
Whether or not we got promoted, and I spoke to Blackwell after the summer. I'd gone back to England. Sunderland wanted to have me back. Steve Bruce was the manager at that time. Then they wanted me to come back and do pre-season, but I wasn't really prepared. Too much sort of history had gone, and I didn't really want to be part of that club anymore. So the whole plan was to stay at Sheffield United. And speaking to Blackwell, he sort of said that the price tag would have been too much, which wasn't the case at all, because I think they ended up signing Ched Evans at the time from Man City, and then putting him on sort of double the amount that I was on. But obviously Wolves came in at that time. They'd got promoted automatically that season. And I had some good games against them as well, playing against Matt Jarvis and that. So obviously England international. So yeah, obviously ended up going there.
Yeah, that was our next question. Actually, took the words straight out of our mouth. When obviously you secured a move to newly promoted Wolves and linked up with recent guest Matt Jarvis. He was great on the podcast. And how was he like in the changing room? Was he a great teammate? Always hardworking?
Yeah, he was. His work ethic was unreal. Like before training, after training, he was in the gym. Loved the gym. Probably more than being out on the field. But he was a big. Honestly, he was so fit and strong and quick, and such a nice guy as well off the pitch. Yeah, I can't speak highly about Javo.
You just mentioned there he was a great trainer. Was there one player that you played with who was a horrific trainer, but come Saturday, didn't have to train at all, but come Saturday was like a Rolls Royce?
Sorry, say that again?
You mentioned there Matt Jarvis was a great trainer, but did you play with a player that put very little effort in on the training field, but then on Saturday was like an absolute Rolls Royce?
You can say yourself if you want.
Yeah, there would be. I'm just trying to think of the top of my head who it would be. I can't think of someone off the top of my head at the minute. But yeah, there's one in every team, to be honest with you, where they just don't really care about training, and they'll turn up on a Saturday afternoon and absolutely smash it.
Yeah. No, so like you said, you moved to Wolves with a very well-known name in football, Mick McCarthy. Did he contact yourself, or was it the club contacted Sunderland at the time?
Yeah, Mick called me actually, and sort of convinced me to come down and have a chat with him and see the club and talk about sort of future plans and everything like that. And yeah, he spoke highly about me, and sort of I remember him saying, sort of one of the first things he said, he was like, when you were at Colchester, I wasn't interested in you at all, because I didn't think defensively you were great. And then sort of for Charlton and Sheffield United, first half of the season at Sheffield United, where I was playing right back, coming against Javo, he was like, I've never seen anyone not like keep Javo so quiet and not let him have any touches of the ball. Which was a nice thing to say. And then obviously he sort of said some things about Keno, obviously their relationship in the past with the World Cup, and the onside straight away. So yeah, it ended up being a pretty easy decision to go to Wolves from there.
And yeah, so you moved on. Go on, Tate.
So after Wolves, you then continued your career in the Football League, moving to a number of clubs, including Portsmouth, Forest, Brighton, Rotherham, Birmingham, and Cardiff. From all the clubs you played for, what was the most stressful transfer you had? Was it a deadline day one? Was it an ongoing saga all summer that was just annoying, or one out the blue?
I think the most stressful one, I think, was going to Rotherham from Forest, because the previous season, like that season, I'd been on loan at Brighton, and they said that they wanted to take me, but were looking at exploring other avenues. And Rotherham had just been promoted, and in all honesty, I didn't really want to go there. I had a good season with Brighton. Dougie had taken much at Forest. He wanted me sort of at the beginning to go back, and then he changed June. So yeah, I think that was the most stressful time, because everything was so up in the air. I didn't really know what was going on. And then I spoke to Steve Evans, and he just fed me a load of lies to get me signed, and I ended up signing. And you know what? I probably shouldn't say it, but after I'd signed, I got back into the car with my agent. I was like, right, 6 months and I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, get me out.
Yeah, that feeling.
Like, yeah, I just had the feeling straight away, and that showed in my performances at the beginning of the season. I wasn't up to scratch. Steve Evans sort of said that I was coming in as a striker, and my whole thought process was like, I'm getting on in age.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's go out to America. That was the big thing at that time. These famous people going to America and living the life and building the football brand out in America, and I wanted to be part of that. So, you know, at that time there was I think there'd only been one designated player, defender, in the MLS at that time, and that was Marquez, Mexican from Barcelona.
Yeah, Rafael.
Yes.
Yeah, it might be Rafael Marquez.
Yeah. So I knew I wasn't going to be going out to the MLS as a designated player, as a defender, which is why I went to Rotherham, because he was saying that I was going as a striker. So I'm thinking, right, banging a load of goals for 6 months and get myself to the MLS and be a designated player and do what I wanted to do. And then, just Steve Evans.
Didn't think quite,
Just a load of lies. I played 145 minutes in pre-season as a striker, and everything else was a centre back. And I was like,
well, what's the point? Like you said, you commit yourself, you talk to these people, and then it turns out to be total opposite. It's never good.
Yeah, exactly. Even going into the meeting before I'd signed for Rotherham, he sort of, like, just to put the cherry on top, he was like, right, I'll make you captain as well. Bring you in and I'll make you captain. And in pre-season, he pulled 4 of us into his office. We went to Scotland, and he pulled all 4 of us into his office and was like, I don't know who's going to be captain this year, so it's up to you 4 to prove to me that you're able to be captain. I'm thinking to myself, well, you already said
You've already told me.
Yeah, exactly. Which got my back up a little bit. And then sort of the day of the start of the season, he pulled me and Lee Frecklington into his office and said that I'm going to give Greg the armband. Could quite clearly see that he didn't want to give it to me, but he knew that he made this promise.
Yeah, he's already said it. Yeah, exactly.
Gave it to me. 4 games later, he took it off me. And I didn't even play up front. So I was like, I'm done with this guy. Like,
get me home.
with this club. Like,
get me home.
I just didn't want to be part of it.
Well, on that, it probably moves quite nicely. But first question I've got for you is your least favourite manager. Would that be Steve Evans, without a shadow of a doubt? Or?
Yeah, just purely because he didn't know what he was doing, to be honest with you. He made a name for himself in the Football League as being able, like this new Neil Warnock, getting teams promoted and everything like that. But not many people see that he always had the biggest budget to work with. So in theory, he bought the leagues. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. And he was just a horrible man, just horrible. Like his whole demeanor and personality was just horrible. And he's got no friends in the game, no friends at all. His assistant used to join in with our banter about him, like putting him down and stuff like that. It's a horrible thing, but
it's very, very, like you said, you're right in the mix of it, and you dealt with the person. It must be very, very frustrating to see, and everyone else thinks he's great when he's not.
And to flip that over,
exactly. It was just a compulsive liar as well. Everything that came out of his mouth was just lies, and it's just horrible.
So we'll move on. We'll move on from Steve.
To flip it over on a positive side, who was your favourite manager you played for, and where did you think you played your best football? Which manager you played best football under?
I mean, it's a tough one because I had so many good moments and good seasons. So obviously, like Phil Parkinson at Colchester, I had like 3 great years with him. And then he took me and Pardew. He was assistant to Pardew at Charlton, where I played well. Then Kevin Blackwell at that time, with the team that we had at Sheffield United, we should have run away with that league. Should have run away with it. And I always felt like if we had a manager who wasn't a rookie manager, we would have run away. So if we had Neil Warnock, we would have run with that league.
Because you played with some, like you said, like some proper football names, haven't you? And Warnock, even Mick McCarthy, Roy Keane, like even Kevin Blackwell to a certain extent, in that he's a name within football, isn't he? So yeah, you've played on some good managers.
Oh yeah, very good managers. Billy Davis was very good. Peter Taylor, who was my England manager. So yeah, I've been fortunate to have a lot of good managers and a lot of fakers as well.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
People have these names in their managerial sense, and they're just terrible. They don't know what they're doing. Like Alex McLeish was
bad,
one of the worst. And you look at the career that he's had. He's Rangers, Scotland, Villa, Birmingham. Yeah, it's honestly, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, who'd you say your best mate within football is? A player, that could be a player, a coach, or someone who you just felt decent bloke.
The guy that I got on well with, and it was hard to create relationships because I was moving so much. But the team that we had at Cardiff, the togetherness that we had was something that I'd never seen before or part of. And you see all these teams that get promoted, they always have this togetherness. And we weren't the best side in that league by a million miles. We weren't even the second best side in that league. But the fact that we were so close as a group got us promoted. And obviously having Neil Warnock as a manager as well, who brought that togetherness and his know-how. So I could near enough say every single one of them players at Cardiff.
Yeah. Do you think with like you said with Neil Warnock, that if obviously he's a good manager, he knows if he has a great set of players, but a group of players, if he can get together, do you think that's a secret of his that he has nailed down that works really well?
Yeah, 100%. His ability to understand players' feelings and keep everyone happy and on the set and and on the same page. I mean, that promotion season, I got left out of squads, which obviously I wouldn't be happy about, but at no point in that season did I feel unhappy. And that's the biggest compliment.
Yeah, it's quite a skill, isn't it? Yeah, like you said, you're not playing, but somehow you're still happy. If you're at another club, you're not playing, you're obviously absolutely fuming. So, yeah,
exactly.
Now, talking about Neil Warnock, it's great to see him back at Huddersfield again. Can you describe Neil Warnock in 3 words?
Charismatic, intelligent, and just funny as well.
Yeah,
just hilarious.
You see the old clips of him when he was the Sheffield United manager. You see him go
Yeah.
around the line. Was he like that in the dressing room?
No, not so much. Not so much. He'd sort of mellowed out a little bit when I had him at Rotherham and Cardiff. Yeah, it was just, yeah, he'd mellowed out a little bit. You could see that he had that little switch in him if he really wanted to. But he used to come up with, like, to me a couple of times and to Sol Bamba before games, because he'd get this sense that we wouldn't perform before games, and I had no idea how he was doing it. But he'd come up to me once or twice and Sol Bamba, and he'd say, "I'm going to come after you at halftime. Like, I want to cause a scene and get everyone wild up."
Yeah.
It was all staged, but no one really knew, and it would just lift the players, and obviously worked. We lost that season, so it was good.
Just maybe a classic one, but what would be the best ground that you've played at, that you'd say, atmosphere wise, or just the stadium itself?
You know what? I don't have a favourite one, to be honest with you. Like, growing up playing at Layer Road, I love going to places like Craven Cottage,
and
places like that. But then you go to Old Trafford, and I don't like the new stadiums. I don't like the Emirates. I didn't like the Etihad. Places that had character and soul and history. So I got a chance to go and play at Real Betis, and I loved that. And it's completely different. It was all open. There was sort of no sort of roofs on stands. It was just open. It was like a bowl, like a bit like the Nou Camp. It was just really, really
so
good.
like you said, somewhere with a bit of character, probably. Yeah, the old school style is much more what you preferred,
exactly.
I suppose.
So, when I went up to Scotland and going to Ibrox and Celtic Park, like, Celtic Park hasn't got a patch on Ibrox, and people are going to hate me for that, but just the history and the decor of inside and the stadium, and it's just I prefer that.
It's a shame when you see clubs that move out to these newer stadiums and they sort of lose a bit of the culture. I think Colchester is a perfect example. Moving to the community stadium, which is on the side of the A12, all open. It's not really in the city centre anymore, whereas Layer Road was that nice, small, compact stadium. I remember, I can't remember if it was in the Championship or League One when Colchester played Sunderland there. I think you beat them 3-0. I remember it was Dwight York, Roy Keane walking into this really small, narrow, and they were looking around thinking, "This ain't Old Trafford." And it's the intimidation factor, isn't it, as well?
Do you know what it was? That game, that was the Championship game.
Championship, yeah.
I literally signed for Reading the week before, and they gave me the opportunity. Reading gave me the opportunity to go back, pack all my stuff, go and say my goodbyes to Colchester, and that was the game I went to. And I remember I was standing in this obviously the tight tunnel at Layer Road, and Roy Keane walking in, and the steward, who I got on really well with in the tunnel, had 2 books, both Roy Keane books. One was an autobiography, and one was, I don't know what it was, but it was a Roy Keane book. And he asked Roy Keane to sign the books, and Roy Keane was like, "I'll sign that one because I wrote it. I'm not signing that one because I have nothing to do with it." And that was it.
Tate, you got any more sort of questions about the career?
Yeah, you touched on the managers earlier, but is there a manager you played for, that you'd wish you'd played for a bit longer? Maybe that time was cut short from a move, or
Neil.
Neil.
Yeah. Easy.
So before I signed for Reading, Sheffield United put an offer in, got accepted. But prior to that, we went up to Bramall Lane and played them, lost to them in the FA Cup. And Neil didn't speak highly about us at all. Not say they gave us a good game and like showed us any respect. And I remember going up to Marie Partner's office, who was the sort of director of football, but not. And she was like, "Look, we've had this offer. What do you think?" I was like, "No, don't want to talk to him. He spoke so badly about us. Don't want to talk to him."
Yeah.
And that was probably, and that was the season that Sheffield United got relegated from the Premier League because of the Tevez Mascherano.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
And I was like, no. And that was probably the biggest mistake that I'd made, to be honest. Not going and having a chat with him. And then obviously when he got the Rotherham job, I fell out with the manager before, put me in the under 23s, and Neil got the job, and I'm like, oh, I'm done here. He's going to remember I've said but luckily enough, Kevin Blackwell, who was my manager at Sheffield United, was his assistant, and I had an ally. And he was like, bring him back in. He got him. And from there, me and him hit it off.
Perfect.
Take any more?
Yeah, just the final one. Obviously, you played numerous positions throughout your career. Was there one that really stuck out as your favourite? Striker, right back, centre back, where was it?
Obviously, I love playing as a striker. I loved it. Yeah, I mean, who doesn't? Like,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
being in that position, you have no no responsibilities as defensive, but you know the pressure of if you make a mistake as a defender, you're gone.
Yeah. It's normally a goal. Yeah.
Whereas you make a mistake as a striker, you can have so many opportunities to go and score another goal, and you only need one to be the hero. Whereas you make one mistake as a defender, you're the villain. So not having that sort of pressure, but I've always seen myself as a centre midfielder, and only a few managers have seen that as well. But my favourite position was a centre midfielder.
So yeah, we'll talk. Tate, you got any more about his career as a whole?
No, I think that's everything we got there, Jack.
Yeah. We'd like to just obviously, like you said, current day, you're playing for #United. They're currently in the Isthmian North Division, I think, one below the Prem. So yeah, how did that come about? As obviously there's a lot of following around hashtag, and their social media side of it is huge. But yeah, like they're a established non-league club now. Yeah, Jess, how did that happen?
I was funny enough. I was going to go and play a charity game for Harvey from So Solid crew, and I took one of the lads up, and he was friends with Joe Keith, who I used to play with at Colchester when I was coming through, and he was assistant. He's assistant at hashtag, and to be honest, I was fully prepared just to quit football. I had offers to go back into the football league, and I just didn't want to do it. I don't like the industry. So he made the phone call to Joe, and he was sort of, let's go and have a chat, or come down to training and have a look, and if you're interested, let's have a proper chat. So I went down to training, had a look. Obviously not something that I'm used to. Obviously, like, we share the ground with Bowes and Pitsy, so they were training on the same night, so you only have half the pitch. So yeah, it was interesting, but I got excited just purely because of it's something completely different.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly.
Football, but it's run in a completely different way, and I was really intrigued about it, and going and play football with very little pressure on you. It's something.
Are you playing? Where are you? I think are you playing centre back there at the minute, or?
Yeah, playing centre back at the minute. Yeah, it's not really that.
Yeah, I was about to say, do you get a lot more time on the ball, or is it? Yeah,
no,
and obviously, less.
No, you get less because everyone's just running around doing like.
Yeah, it is frantic at that level, isn't it?
Yeah, so my sort of knowledge and experience, give myself a little bit more time on the ball, and being able to teach these young lads as well, it definitely got me interested, and that's why I took it.
Yeah, you touched on earlier that you said that hashtag was something completely different that you're used to. As your training or preparation has altered at all throughout your career? Have you got to do less to get more on a Saturday, or do you do more training in the week to keep yourself ready for your game on Saturday, or how does that work?
I do very little, to be honest with you. It's not, without sounding disrespectful to the other teams in this league, it's not really that challenging, to be honest. I don't really get a sweat on. I get a sweat on going to the five sides with H on Wednesday.
Yeah, I was going to say, doing Harry's running on a Monday night, Wednesday night.
Yeah, it's not really challenging, to be honest with you. It's just nice being able to help develop these youngsters that I'm playing with into better players. And we got a good dressing room with some talent in there, but they're all good people, which is the main thing.
Yeah, and on the, like I said, hashtag United, their social media presence is massive. They've got hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube and Instagram and all the rest of it. And you've played in front of tens of thousands of people in massive Premier League stadiums and football stadiums. But is that a different slight of pressure, or do you not really, knowing that your game will then be watched by hundreds of thousands of people online, or is it not really, that doesn't really come into your thought process?
No, that's never really come into my way of thinking, to be honest. It's more like, do you know what it's more like? I treat it more like a practice game where we do an 11v11 in training. That I think that's kind of because I've played in front of full stadiums in the Premier League and everything like that. I'm used to doing 11v11s in training every single day. And that's kind of what it's like, because we only get maximum 500 people. It might as well be training.
Yeah.
Or a game behind closed doors. The difficult part for me was being able to be in the presence of cameras in the dressing room before and during and after, and everyone trying to make content this game, whereas I'm there to play football. And I've never sort of been able or looked to be able to flip that switch where it's all fun and jokes before, like 5 minutes before kickoff, and then all of a sudden you're in game mode. That game and for that moment, and it is different. But I'm so getting there.
Yeah, good. That's good.
So you mentioned at the top of the show, great form recently for hashtag. Been on a long winning streak. Obviously looking for promotion this season. Have you got any plans for what you're going to be doing next season? continuing there, or have you got any ideas?
No, to be honest, I have no idea. I haven't spoken to the owner or the manager or anything like that. I think it's just fully focused on winning this league first and getting promoted, and having that next step for the club is the most important thing. For me, as a player, that's all I care about at the minute is winning the league, and keep pushing the club forward as a football club and a brand.
Yeah. So you don't fancy a little stint on Love Island?
Nah, I'll leave that to
Yeah, I was gonna say leave that. Toby's got that covered, so it's all good. No, but on a sort of serious note, that like we keep saying, the social media presence, they want to create content, and cameras are all flying around. And most traditional non-league clubs, do they look down upon hashtag, and is there comments and little things?
Yeah, massively, because the club's only 7 years old, and already they're light years ahead of these other clubs that we're competing with in the league. And they don't like it because they have this heritage that the supporters have been following these teams for so many years and everything like that. So, you know, that everyone thinks that our budget is so much bigger than everyone else, whereas it's more than likely towards the bottom.
Yeah.
And not many people know about it, and we have this persona that we just throw money at everything, where that's not the case. Like Spencer, the owner, and his brother Seb run the club to where we are in comparison of the leagues. And I mean, you look at Sudbury, their wage bill is probably 4 times ours.
Yeah,
which is massive.
But then, because, like you said, because of the other side of hashtag, everyone just jumps on hashtag's neck, don't they? I suppose.
Exactly. And but we're in it together, and we don't really take any notice of it, and we go about our work.
Do you think that spurs your team on, or like that sort of edge that gives you an edge to go, right, these lot hate us, let's go and win again?
Yes and no. Yes, in terms of the lads use it as fuel, but because of a lot of their ages and how young they are, they don't know how to channel that. So when they get on the pitch, they make decisions that they don't usually make, and they try harder stuff that they're not capable of doing, and they don't know how to channel or focus that sort of energy towards us. But sort of as the season's been going on, it's been getting better, and everyone is sort of growing and learning the process of being able to channel and focus that energy in the right way. But at the end of the day, it's still non-league, and
of course,
there's going to be a lot more mistakes on the pitch than obviously full-time football.
Yeah, of course. Final question from me. Life after football, do you see yourself going into management, or are you totally, once you're done, that's football and you're going to do whatever you need to do?
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know. I've started taking my badges, but yeah, it would have to be, I don't think I'd go into management. It would be more coaching. So if one of my friends got a managerial, I could be just sitting back in sort of behind him, but just taking the sessions and stuff like that. But no, at the minute, with obviously the football being part-time, I've started up a couple of businesses, so that's taken up a lot of my time.
No, fair enough. Good.
Perfect. I think that's all our questions we got there, Jack.
Yeah, I think that was good. We enjoyed it.
Yeah. If we will revert back to the trivia question I asked at the beginning of the show, just to refresh your memory.
Yep.
You played for 13 Football League clubs throughout your career, but which of these clubs did you play against the most?
Wait, you said clubs. There's more than one.
No, sorry, just so I've got the top three.
Top three. Oh,
Yeah.
I can help. I don't know the answer. I'll help you out, but yeah, I think
Yeah,
I'd probably say Cardiff would be one.
that's in your top three. Yeah, that's second. 12 times.
Charlton.
No, not the top three.
Ooh. I think I played Sheffield United 3 times. 4 times, 3. Is Sheffield in there?
No.
No, didn't think there would be. Cardiff.
get Cardiff off the bat. It's good. Very good. Oh, no idea. What about Reading? Tate? Is that one?
Yeah, Reading's number three.
Is it
11
really?
11
Bloody
times.
hell.
Yeah.
I've played against Reading 11 times.
Apparently
According to Transfer Market,
Wow.
11 times. You've won twice, drawn twice, and you've been booked twice against them, and you scored against them.
Against Reading. I've scored against Reading. Oh no, yeah, I did. I did. Yeah, it was ahead of Nottingham Forest.
So number one.
Yeah, give us a clue. Give us a clue, Tate.
Give you a
Forest?
clue. No, not Forest. Let's have a clue. Clue.
Oh, it's gonna be Brighton, isn't it?
Did you score against them? You scored 3 times against this club.
I scored 3 times against this club.
How many times did he play for this club?
Cool.
3 times as well. You played for them.
So you played for this club 3 times, and you played against. No, scored 3 times.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
I've played 3 times. Reading, I played 3 times.
What other clue can I give you? Championship team. Birmingham City.
Ah,
Oh, damn it.
about Blues.
Yeah.
Yeah. Birmingham City. You played against them 15 times.
And I've scored against them, have I?
Yeah, 3 times, apparently.
Let's try and remember when. Wow. Yeah, I can flip. Because we didn't go through it.
Yeah.
Blues.
Yeah.
But the club he
Oh,
played
good.
against the most times was Barnsley. 17 times.
I've definitely scored against Barnsley as well.
Yeah, twice.
Yeah. First game of the championship season for Colchester. I remember.
No.
Oh, it was for Forest.
Very good. Very good. Good question, Tate.
No, thank you very much. I think that's everything we've got to talk about. Thank you very much for coming on the show, Greg. I hope it was okay.
No problem at all. Yeah, my pleasure.
No, appreciate it, Greg. That was really good. Thanks for coming on again. And again, those listening, hope you enjoyed it. But yeah, cheers, Greg.
No problem.
Perfect. Right.
Thanks for
Take
having me.
care, lads. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, cheers.
Bye-bye.